Okay, well, let's start, and then we'll see if they can get there and what have you. Are we all okay if we make a start then? And Mr. Dorrell's come here to talk about the year of festivals and the public question time. I mean, public question time, I believe. So, if everyone's okay, I'll open that up to Mr. Dorrell.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Obviously, this year has been a disaster for the festivals. The film festival itself is not going to be doing anything except some things online. It's not possible to do a physical thing this year. So we're starting to think about next year. Next year is clearly going to be a big year for the festivals, year absence, and I think it really needs a push. And my idea is that we target the funding towards promotion and also towards particular venues. Without the community venues, we don't have festivals or events. And the venues are clearly suffering and they need as much support as they can. We've built up reserves and we have kind of prepaid for the Civic and for the Tech. And although we won't be using them, we will be next year. So I've spoken to the Festival of Folk and I've also to the Arts Week. To the Arts Festival, and they've agreed with my idea, which was instead of the funding from the parish council going directly to the festivals, that instead it might be a good idea to split it, and that half of it would go towards promotion. And say the beginning of April next year, if we're able to, then there is a promotion of all the festivals as a kind of year of the festivals. That might include an event on a weekend where the festivals do an individual event to get people's interest. It might be a brochure advertising all the festivals throughout the year, both for residents and for tourism, and also something like a banner. It's proved very difficult in the past to get cooperation between the festivals. I've tried a number of times and it's kind of failed. I think this one can succeed with the support of the council. I also think if we can show that we are cooperating on promotion, that it might enable Kirklees to provide money as well. They've kind of withdrawn from that, partly because they want, or there hasn't been cooperation between the festivals. So it's basically to split the funding, support promotion. And ideally, there should be, I think, a particular council member who's responsible for that, who kind of liaises with the festivals. And if we can build up a fund, then we can start to organise beginning of next year to promote Holme Firth and the festivals. And I think it's going to become increasingly important. In 2023, Kirklees is going to rebrand the town, I believe, as a music town, and Holme Firth really should be part of that. So I think we need to look long term and get cooperation going. As I said, it's got the support of the two other main festivals. I haven't spoken to all the other ones. Actually, I can't keep up with the number of different events and festivals. But I think it would have general support. And I do think it's worth something supporting. That again, festivals, economically important. They bring in a lot of people. It's good for tourism, and it kind of ups the profile of Holme Firth and the Holme Valley. That's it, I think.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dorrell. So can you sort of confirm which festivals you've actually spoken to and have pledged their support?
The Arts Festival and the Holme Firth Festival of Folk.
Arts Festival and the Holme Festival.
And the festivals use primarily the Civic and Holme Firth Tech as venues.
Yeah, okay. So part of your plan is that rather than part of the grant money that each of the festival would come to the parish council for, they wouldn't come for the full amount, but half of it would then go towards the overall branding of the year of the year of the festivals.
Yes, the parish council will have a fund, keep it in a fund for that, yes.
Okay. Is there any members of the parish that would like to ask Mr. Dorrell any questions? Well,
just really a few comments. You know, certainly, I think like most, I'm sure all of us would agree, actually, not just most of us, with Stephen's point that the festivals are extremely important for the town. You know, it's certainly key in terms of our local economy, our identity, and obviously the well-being of people who live in this area as well. And it does sound to me like a sensible idea. I think if we can get that collaboration between the festivals, as you're working on, Stephen, I think that would make a lot of sense. And also the suggestion of having a councillor or a particular part of the parish council that links into that, again, I think for me makes sense as well. So certainly, I think a good proposal and a good way forward.
Okay, Councillor Hogley. And then Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Councillor Davies said, and I think it is a good idea to bring the festivals together. I suppose the unifying thing with those three festivals, and I'd probably add the food and drink to them, is that they're all multi-day festivals, so they bring people in potentially not just for one day's events like some of the other events that we have in the valley, but they're actually, you know, longer lasting, so they're more likely to attract people to come for the weekend, which sort of ticks more tourist boxes rather than just for, you know, one evening event, because obviously we're very fortunate around here. We have an awful lot of local community events. So I think it's an excellent idea. It'd be good if the food and drink festival could also be involved in that potentially, and then it sort of it also effectively means there's something that happens in, I think, well, most months of the summertime. I mean, I'm happy to get involved in working with the festivals on that. I'd welcome input from any other councillors as well, but I'm happy to try and support that as best I can, if that helps.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hogley. Councillor Dixon.
I'm just a bit concerned. We've got all this conglomeration to go, everybody's going in together. What happens if one decides to disband or fall apart? Does it mean that everybody else is going to be benefiting by this? It's been grand this summer not to have all these events, so we haven't had no hustle and bustle, and it saved people a lot of money not having to go to these things, because people think they've got to go just because they're there. And to my way of thinking, it saved, this pandemic has helped everybody's pocket, and they say everybody's worse off, but everybody's better off because they haven't been spending. And I can do without it.
Okay, thank you for your contribution, Councillor Dixon. Have we anyone else to contribute? Okay, then what we'll I suggest that this item is further down the agenda, but I'll once we've finished a public question time of the preliminary items, I'll propose that we will bring this forward to the agenda so we can discuss it amongst ourselves then, if that's okay with everybody.
Okay.
I think next we have a David Hutchinson, I believe from Honley Cricket Club, am I correct?
That's right, yes. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good, yes.
And I believe you're here to speak regarding your application for side screens, is that right?
That's right, yes. The existing site screens that we have, they're now damaged. They were about 13 years old, and they do get damaged in storm damage because of the winds, and they're fairly been light things, so they can easily get toppled over. And we have repaired them a number of times, but there's been a couple of strong storms over the summer, and they were destroyed beyond repair. One ended up in one of the neighbours' gardens, which caused a bit of an issue. So we've looked at replacing them, and we're looking at replacing them with a side screen at either side of the ground, which cost 2,300 excluding VAT, and that includes the delivery and the installation. I think side screens are a necessity at cricket grounds because for two reasons. One is it produces a better quality of cricket. The batsman can pick up the red ball against the white screen, and also that provides, as I say, better quality cricket, but it also is a safety measure to avoid the batsmen getting hit when they get loose sight of the ball. we need to get them in place for next season. We managed to struggle through the last bit of the season, the shortened season, without them. I think we'd the last couple of 2 or 3 games we didn't have sight screens, with a view to trying to get the new sight screens in place for the start of the season. Our usual sort of funds for the club are raised mainly through the bar. We have, in the past, we've got a very successful bar, but we couldn't open that until late July, and then we had constraints on it. And the other income comes from things like our teas and our tuck shop. So we've been a bit restricted on our fundraising this time. So we're hoping, you know, to a grant to help us get that in place for the start of next season.
Okay, thank you. I mean, before I open it up, I've got a few questions myself, just
Okay.
regarding your application form.
Yeah.
On your application form, where it says what other organisations, group, will benefit from these facilities. Now you've got down here on the cash rolls, Honula Junior Football Club, Honula Senior Football Club, Home Perth Harriers. How do they benefit from cricket side screens?
Well, well, perhaps I misunderstood that question. I thought it meant generally the group's facilities or the organisation. So I was really looking at, I thought that what that question mean, what other organisations may use the organisation or group facilities. I thought that meant the facilities as a whole. But if we're just looking at the side screens, then that would only be the Honley Cricket Club and all its various teams, opposing teams, and then the representative matches that we have.
Yeah.
We have one with the MCC, Yorkshire Under-19s, the schools, Honley High School and Honley Junior School, and Huddersfield New College play there. Yeah.
Okay, so just could you just give us a brief overview of what cricket teams you actually have at Honley on the cricket club?
Yeah, we have, well, going into next, we should have had 3 senior teams this year, a first team, a second team, and then we're going to put a Sunday team into the Halifax League. But because of COVID, that was pulled, but it's going to happen next season. So we'll have 3 senior teams, 2 on a Saturday, 1 playing away, 1 playing at home, and 1 on a Sunday. And then in the juniors, we have a number of age groups. We have, this year we had under 7s, under 9s, I think with 211 teams, 213 teams, 215 teams, and 217 teams. So we have a lot of junior cricket, but it was all condensed into a very short season this time. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that's that. And then just I've had a look through a brief look through the accounts myself, and it looks like the income has reduced. Sort of the club's income itself has reduced sort of 2019.
Yeah.
And running a deficit of the previous years of like £8,000. Now I'm guessing here that your accounts haven't shown 2020. I'm guessing that they're not in as healthy state either.
No, I mean the reason if we go back about 2 or 3 years after we had the new facilities, the new changing room, the new pavilion refurbishment, we had an absolutely cracking year. Everybody wanted to come down and watch it. And gradually since then, unfortunately, and we had to compulsory register for VAT, so that tended to cut the income in half, and the surplus in half. Yeah. Last season was affected for a number of reasons. One is we have the Sanks Cup, which is like the FA Cup final of the local cricket league. That's played at Honley every 2 years, once at Honley, once at Elland. In 19, it was effectively at Elland, so Honley didn't get it. Yeah. And the previous year we had a big event for Honley Feast at the ground, and that didn't happen in 2019 because I think the organiser gave up fairly short notice. And then thirdly, it was a really bad season for weather, so with a lot of matches curtailed, so it doesn't, you don't get people staying behind, in the bar after the match. So those were the 3 main reasons. The bar income was down. And that obviously knocks onto the tea income. Teas are quite profitable, and the tuck shop as well. So those 3 factors. You're right. In 2020, the season didn't get going till about the 15th of July, something like that, and there were about 10 matches. so that will look even worse. But the costs were cut completely. A lot of the playing costs were cut, and we did receive a very helpful grant from Kirklees Council to look after the sort of like the ground maintenance costs, insurance costs, energy costs, and that sort of thing.
Okay, has any other councillors got any questions for Mr. Hutchinson? Okay, dokie. I mean, we'll obviously discuss your grant application shortly when with the rest of the agenda. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we now have Carrie Birch. Is that regarding Homley Library? Is that right?
Yes, it's regarding a specific activity in the library, which is the Children's Book Festival, which we've been running since 2016, apart from this year, obviously. And that takes the form of volunteers who organise and support events that are usually they usually focus on a book, a children's book. We try to work throughout the age range, and we try to invite authors or artists, educational environmentalists such as Fair and Funky, musicians and dramatists and poets. So they will come and we'll pay them, but it's not usually that much that they're asking. They're usually doing it because they're highly motivated to work with libraries and with children and young people. They'll come and they'll run a session. Volunteers also run sessions focusing on a book. So we've got some very skilled people in the community who have worked with preschool children, and they'll come along and run events. So we've built up a reputation over the past 5 years, that our events are very well respected. We work closely with the schools and we advertise our events which take place during the school holidays. We advertise those events in Brockholes, Honley and Netherton. And we do that because it doesn't cost anything, but they will include it in their electronic newsletter to parents. So it's a way of getting the word out. We have an electronic booking system, but we also ask people to come into the library if they can't book electronically, and we'll put posters around. So we have a kind of a very well attended out of school attendance from children and families in the area, and they don't ever seem to come together in the library in quite this way. And the Children's Book Festival has been part of the development of the community hub, so it's kind of a good example of how a community hub can give opportunities to people who may not use the library. I think you can see from the application that for 25%, it's their first visit to the library. So it's not always the same people who are coming or anything like that. It just draws in a lot of people who will not be rubbing shoulders together in quite that way, and they really enjoy them. Are there any specific questions that you want me to answer about the finances or anything?
I've not got any. I've had a look through. Has anybody else? Everything seems okay to me. Councillor Hogley.
Just a quick question. I know you said it was during the school holidays. Is that effectively over the summer holidays, or is it all the way through Easter and half terms as well?
It's all the way through Easter and half terms as well. And we also we do other events. So if there's, you know, the Christmas events in Honley, the street market, we'll have a drop-in. Last year we had a drop-in for that. So we join in with the rest of the community at those kinds of events. But pretty much every half term we'd have maybe 2 events. And then during the summer, it's probably going to add up to more like 8 or 9 events. Now, the challenge is obviously that at the moment we can't, until there's some kind of vaccine, we can't operate as we have been doing. But we think that the way forward with that is to try to move outside into the library grounds and to do things that are environmentally friendly, but also celebrating the fact that we've got those grounds. Could grow things, tables and that kind of thing for activities to take place outside. And we've got groups lined up who can work in that way. Forest schools and other organisations. That there's a new local one that we're hoping to link up with, the Honley Community Growers, who are joining forces with the library. So we very much want what we do to work and complement what they do.
Anyone else got any further questions? Okay, we'll be discussing it shortly, so the application, so if you'd like to hang around.
Thank you.
Okay, Richard, Liz, I think someone popped up, Ashley.
Yeah, she's given her apologies, I'm afraid. She's having technical problems and she's working. So
Okay,
she's
and
not
was she the
coming.
applicant for the Honley Growers?
Yeah.
Okie doke. Right then, so I'll move to the with the preliminary stuff on the agenda. Oh, sorry,
Right.
Councillor Hogley.
Yeah, I just had a question because I thought a while back we'd agreed that grants were discussed in private in applications. So I'm just conscious that if they are, then there's then we just need
I
to
should go, shouldn't
public
I?
accordingly.
Okay,
That's
then.
all.
Oh, I think you're right, Councillor Hogley. We did agree that. So if everyone's okay, we will be. I mean, whilst it's a public meeting and you're quite happy to hang around, we will be discussing your grant applications in private. So
No, it's all right. I'll go. It's fine.
okay. And
Okay, thank you.
We'll let you know short in the next day or so how you've got.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Are you okay
Bye.
with that, Mr. Hutchinson?
Thank you, David.
Bye.
And thank you for your time.
Yes, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for reminding me,
Bye.
Councillor Hogley. Right. Okay. So moving on to the agenda proper. Public bodies. Admission meetings 1960 amended by Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulations 2014. As local parish and town council meetings can now be recorded, the chairman check if anybody wishes to record the meeting to ensure reasonable filters can be provided. As the meeting is a virtual meeting, the deputy clerk RFO will be recording this meeting. Is everybody okay with that? Is everybody aware of that? And I would just like to take this opportunity to remind everybody that it is available on YouTube and our behaviour can be seen on, our comments can be seen by the public in general. So moving on. To accept apologies for absence. Have we any apologies?
Councillor Hall has given her apologies, and Councillor Greaves is running late, so he should be here fairly soon, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. And to receive members and officers' personal disclosable pecuniary interests in items on the agenda. Okay, moving on. To consider written requests for DPI dispensations. Have we received any?
No.
No. Okay. And then 21, 26. To consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private. I put forward that the grant application should be discussed in private. Is that okay? All those in favour? Great stuff. Thank you. And then, okay, so to confirm the minutes of the previous committee meeting, to note the minutes of the finance management meeting held on 30th of July 2020, number 2021-01 to 2021-21 inclusive, previously disputed and already confirmed by the council. Can we confirm the minutes? We've all seen the copy? Great stuff. Okie doke. Moving on, where are we now? And I've lost my bloody, where are they gone? There they are. Sorry about that, I just lost my agenda. So, accounts for payment. Have we all had a managed to have a look at the accounts for payment? So, to note, the former chairman of council reclaimed £460 in expenses in September 2020, and the former chairman of council intends to make donations to the local charities of £270 each to the charity fund in October 2020. These are one to the Full Life Church Food Bank and one to Square Peg. So, are they noted, everyone? Oh, Councillor Hogley?
I just have a very quick question, which is just for interest. The expenses claimed are presumably are they for civic functions and things that the chair's gone to? So presumably,
yeah, partly the main amount of it was for the thing we attended at the Full Life Church.
Oh, okay.
That was about £400, I think, and then the other thing was, I think it was a Meltham, like a ball or something like that.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay. So that was basically for the civic function, the civic Sunday, and then a civic function he needed to attend.
Yeah.
Okie doke. Thank you. Are those noted, everybody? Yep. Okay. And then to approve the schedule of accounts for September. These are documents F and documents D with the G with your agenda, and they've been part approved by the council already. Has everyone had sight of those? Okay, doke. I propose we approve those. All in favour? Thank you. And then, okay, moving on to item 2021-30. Financial statements. Approved accounting summaries. Copies enclosed. I've had a look through them and they seem fine to me. Has anybody else found any anomalies or any queries they'd like to discuss? So,
can I just make one small point?
Please.
Yeah, this just applies to September. In terms of the salary for the climate emergency coordinator.
Yeah. Some in August and some in September, isn't there? I think.
I think it's only in the last month, but what I just needed to say was we need to account for that as salary. So it has to be accounted for as salary and as climate emergency. So I've done something with the cost centres so that it still sits in climate emergency, but it also is accounted for as salary. Okay. It does mean in future that we'll have to move some money internally within the climate emergency budgets to make them balance, but it does make sense in terms of the fact we need to keep all the salaries money together.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. It's just something we have to do for audit purposes.
So it's a salary item, so it will sit within F&M and show these accounts, but the money will be claimed back from the climate emergency because they.
I'm just on a Zoom meeting. Can I give you everything?
So just to clarify, Rich, that's just simply shown as a debit then from the climate emergency.
At the moment it looks like you're in loss because it's not come out of any specific budget. So at some point we're going to need to move some money from the mobilisation budget, for example, into the staffing budget.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's still
in the climate emergency budget. It's just because we need to keep all the salaries spending together.
Okay.
We need to kind of separate it off.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's what they suggested at the people.
Okay.
Okay. Have any councillors any further queries regarding the account summaries H, I, and J?
I'd be interested to know what people thought about this the new package and the sort of information it's recording and how it's recording it.
Well, I find these much easier to look at and much easier to review and go through. I found them a lot easier and I could get my head around them a lot quicker. It was quicker for me to do. That's my personal. Has anybody else got any comments?
Good.
It's more self-explanatory and it makes a lot of sense. And it's in language that we can understand.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Well done, Richard.
Okay. All those in all those in favour of approving these? Yeah, that's everyone, I think. Thank you. Okay, 2021-31. To note, the council standing committees and members will be asked to start their budget planning for council year 2021-2022. The RFO will support budget planners. Have you any further comments, Richard?
Not especially. You know, it's kind of self-explanatory, really. So Liz will be talking to CASC about their budget needs. I've given her some sort of calculations, and the same thing will apply to the other committees as we go along. Same thing that obviously needs to apply to this committee. You know, whether, you know, you all need to think about whether you want to be doing anything with your budget requests and the requests of the entire council.
Okay, Councillor Paul Davis.
Just because I've got a leaky memory, could we just put the timescales out as well, just to remind us all when we've got to do, as chairs, when we've got to do certain things by in terms of the budget, Rich? Would that be helpful?
Well, what I've said is that we start thinking about them by the time of the next meeting, so you have a good idea about what you're going to do by the time of the next meeting. I think it was February when we finalised it.
Yeah.
When was it, Liz?
Can I just say, I think it's November to F&M, and then it goes to council in December, and then it's finalised in January. Right. So I think, for instance, for service provision, we're going to have an extra meeting because we don't have one until January. So we'll all have to shuffle around, make sure we've got a meeting before November, December. Get that information to finance and management for November.
Okay, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I think it'd just be useful, Liz and Rich, just a simple email just to confirm that, because everybody's, you know, busy lives and all that, so that there's no doubt then when we need to do it, and you know, what the meetings are, etc.
Well, we put it on the agendas, don't we? So,
yeah, I know, but for the chairs, I think it's just useful for the chairs to have that. I'm probably just speaking for myself. Maybe the other chairs.
Fair enough. It's fair enough.
Councillor Dixon.
I think it'd be interesting to see what Richard's view with regard to the future budget, with this year being a funny year and the expenditure not being what it would have been normally, and with the large amounts of money that we have in balances, whether Richard would like to do a little project and see what he feels would be a sensible budget, in the sense that we're not going to be claiming the budget that we had last year because we haven't spent the money. And I'm thinking that if we start looking at getting a large budget again, we're going to have nowhere to put the money, because every bank we've got is full. And I'd like to see it rather than just individual chairmen making decisions. And I like to make the word, Paul, you refer to chairs are things we're sitting on. I like to call them chairman because that is respect, and that's what I've always had. But if Richard could look at the potential problems we're going to have with that if we do take excess money or do a budget similar to last year's, because I think this year might be the year when we could just do a little bit of a gut down in budget, but leave ourselves adequately covered for the next few years because of the money we have in balances be due to non-spending.
Noted, Councillor Dixon, that you know, budgets should be spent, and underspending can be just as big a problem.
Budgets aren't for spending, budgets are for looking after what the assets are.
Councillor Dixon, council budgets are there to be set and to be spent to. If it means
No,
setting a lower budget, if it means setting a lower budget, then it means setting a lower budget.
Yeah.
But the budget should be there to be spent to meet what our needs and the needs of this community. If that means a lesser need and we set a lower budget, then so be it. But that
there's no point in spending for the sake of spending.
Okay. Underspend is just as bad as overspend. Okay, moving on. So where were there? Budget for acceptance. Is anybody? So, Councillor Hogley. Do apologise.
I was just going to following on from Councillor Dixon's comments. I know, obviously, in the reports that you've given us, Rich, it says percentage spent. Yeah. But is there any way we can see how that would compare to percentage spent by, say, this time last year? Because I'm not quite clear whether because I mean, bear in mind, the civic year only started in May and we're only in October, it's quite tempting to think, oh, there's a huge underspend, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case.
I can easily do a report about that. Yeah, it wouldn't be difficult.
I mean, even if it's just something simple to the chairs of the committees, which just helps people understand: are we facing a situation of either overspending or underspending, so that we can, consider what Councillor Dixon has commented, and look at budgets with a more educated perspective.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Sweeney.
So following on from Councillor Hogley's comments, I think it will be also useful, Rich, if we could see something about the trajectory of spend. So in other words, the way spending is varied over the last, say, 5 years or perhaps even 10 years, if that data is easily accessible, because I think that would give, rather than a snapshot, it would show whether there are any trends, and it might help us to be more proactive rather than reactive in allocation of funds.
Over a council year?
I'm just talking about per year, each year. So comparing, Councillor Hogley mentioned about comparison with previous years, but I think the graphical representation over a number of years is often very informative and easily digested, for us, but also I think for the public. If the public ever wanted information about this sort of thing, that sort of snapshot of a single year's expenditure is not always, I think, as transparent as it could be. So from a strategic point of view for this committee and the council, I think an idea of trajectory will be a useful one. But then from a transparency point of view, I think it would also serve two masters.
I mean, we have 3 years worth. Beyond that, it's going through paper records.
Well, I'm not suggesting to create extra workload, but 3 years. If we have 3 years, we have 3 years. Just to have some idea of how that works would be informative.
Okay, I'll have a look what the older stuff says, but I think it'll be messier, to be honest. But
that's fine. That's fine.
We've got 3 years.
That's noted, Councillor Sweeney. I do think it's worth recognising that the counting system that we're using now is different to the previous accounting system. Absolutely. There and everywhere, and so I think going forward getting that kind of information will be much easier. But going back, it's very much a hands-on job.
Yeah. Okay. And I understand, and I don't want to create extra workload. Just quickly to come back on Councillor Dixon's points, I think underspend is not regarded as fiscal rectitude by any government organisation. So whilst it's important that we show fiscal rectitude, underspend is not necessarily an indicator of that, and it's really important that we bear that in mind. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so that's 2021-2031 carried on. So the next item is 2021-32 tenancies. To note that the council is now receiving payments for the tenancy on the lettable space occupied by Monty's Loft, which is great stuff that we've got a tenant there. That's for anybody who knows, I believe, is the accommodation next to the toilets. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. Yep.
Councillor Dixon.
That is Monty's Loft. That's the new property which is across from the white in the toilet block.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Monty's Loft was. And what does Monty's Loft do?
They're
does anybody know?
An alternative clothing outlet.
Right. Well, it's all right for tramps like me. Then I'll have to go.
Pop down and see what you can get for your.
It's a fair trade organisation. It's about ethical and sustainable trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pardon? Ethical, sustainable trade. That's what I do.
Yeah. We wish them all the best.
We're very ethical people.
Okay, item 2021-33. I'm hoping we can catch up a bit here. To note, the clerk and the deputy clerk, IFO, will be updating bank mandates with HSBC, Handelsbank and CCLA over the next few weeks. New mandates will be forwarded, paperwork to complete. The mandatees will be HSBC will be councillors Hogley, Pogson, T. Bellamy, Blacker, Brook, Carey, Colling, Davis and the RFO. Handelsbank will be councillors Hogley, Pogson, Brook, Blacker and the clerk. And CCLA will be councillors Hogley, Pogson, Brook and the RFO. Has anyone got any comments? Okay, that's noted. And then 2021-34, statement of intent on training. To receive a report of any training by councillors, officers since the last finance management meeting, attendees to report. I've not been on any. Has anybody been on any training since we last met?
I think some people have they not, on the chairmanship skills? I think some people have been on planning.
Planning, yeah.
I think 2 people have been on chairmanship. course. Do you want to have a list of really, should we be presenting a list of the courses that people have attended?
That would, could I request that we have a list for the next
Yeah.
FNM meeting, so those councillors can be reminded of what they've done and then respond. Councillor Blacker.
I did go on the chairmanship training. I think that was a previously, but since in this last time period, I have been on planning training. To say that actually that I find the training is good. It's definitely worth giving up your 2 hours for it. I think it's well worth it.
Councillor Dixon.
Who gets the benefit? Is it people not being trained in the sense, but people indoctrinated into the way of doing things like the Council of Kirklees and other people want? It doesn't give me. I've been on planning for 30 some years, and I know more about planning than any of them officers down there. And I think obviously people like Mary are being indoctrinated by these people into doing it their way and not the way that it's been done for years. And I'm sorry, but it just upsets me that that would be the case. And the people that are doing the training will be architects that have failed, not people that are in business and making a fortune out of it by doing it properly.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
I don't know who's doing the training. I've got no idea. But just a comment that, you know, I sit on Huddersfield subcommittee planning, and yeah, you know, unfortunately sometimes we hear that from one or two members in criticism of officers, and I really think we need to treat these officers with due respect. These are professionals who are there to provide us with advice, much of which is legal advice as well. They're backed up by specialist legal support. And certainly from my experience, I find of huge value talking to the planning department, and they've been extremely helpful. So I don't believe it's indoctrination. In fact, as you all know, quite often as members, we will, well, not quite often, but now and again, we do vote against officers' recommendations for certain reasons. Not that the officers have got it wrong, because it's not an adversarial thing. It's because there are other considerations which as members we can take on board. Officers can't do that. They have to work within legal constraints, and in particular, you know, legislation set down by the government. So, you know, I don't think we've got a problem with any sort of indoctrination or any kind of mind control coming from Kirklees.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I think I'll got Councillor Blacker put her hand back up, and then I'll go to Councillor Sweeney.
Sorry, I'm going to say the training is not provided by Kirklees, and in fact, the benefit of the training really is that it's specially aimed at people who are parish councillors. You know, it's organised through the YLCA, and sometimes it's subcontracted. The actual delivery is subcontracted to other professional organisations, and it is valuable.
Okay, Councillor Sweeney.
I think it's unfortunate to use terminology such as indoctrination. We're not talking about the Khmer Rouge here. We're talking about professionals who are trained usually to instruct volunteers such as ourselves in how to comport themselves in public life, but also to comply with legal requirements. I understand that Councillor Dixon may have differences of opinion with others about the nature of the training. I think terms like indoctrination are really unfortunate, especially in the current political climate. I think it would help us all if we could avoid them.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Sweeney. I myself have found any YCLA training I've done to be very, very useful, and I've enjoyed it, and it's found it of much of use. Any more comments about training before we move on?
I could just say that there's several people have put their name down for the finance training that's coming up, which is given by an external agency, by the way. So not even the YLCA, but there you go. There's Councillor Hogley is going on some, and Councillor Pogson, to learn about how the finances are managed in the council.
I'm looking forward to it. Okay, doke. Financial item 2021-35. Financial records for the website. Given the change to the new accounts package, consider financial records that are uploaded to the parish council website. Has Richard got any comments regarding this?
Well, under the old system, I was putting up basically a bank reconciliation, the kind of year-to-date budget statement, and the record of receipts and payments. I can do most of that using this new system. The new system doesn't tend to do bank reconciliations in the same way, so they probably wouldn't go. If we do switch over to the new system, do you want me to update the records for the previous part of the year with the new system? Because at the moment it's got the old system uploaded.
Has anyone got any comments? Questions, queries? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, just how much work's involved in that, Rich, for you?
I mean, I don't think a ton. Probably, you know, maybe a day's worth. Maybe not even that. It's just uploading files to the server. It's fiddly, but it's not super lengthy.
Okay, I do prefer looking at the more recent, you know, the newer package that we've got is a lot easier, and I'm sure members of the public would appreciate looking at that. Okay. But whether we need to go retrospectively or not, I don't know if I can be persuaded. Anybody else got any comments? Councillor, sorry, Richard, go on.
I was just going to say, I think if we decide to do it, then doing it retrospectively, I think we probably need to do the entire year by the same system. So you know, it won't take forever. It'll be a day's worth probably.
Sorry.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to jump in. I suppose from that perspective, certainly, you know, it gives us the opportunity, as Councillor Sweeney was saying earlier on, you know, if we need to look back, then it's all the same format, it's laid out the same.
And then when it comes to, you know, we meant to give the public the chance to review the records at the end of the financial year. It's all there already, so we don't actually have to do anything extra, really. So
yeah, from my perspective, that would be, as long as it's just a, you know, sort of a day's work, that seems to me a good idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Hogley, was that just? Did you want to speak, or were you just indicating?
Sorry, no, I was just going to say that sounds like a good idea to go back, so that at least this whole year is covered, but not to go further back and redo stuff. Okay,
so we have a proposal that we go back and do that. Is there a seconder? Okay, all those in favour?
Okay.
Thank you for that, Richard. Thank you. Okay, the next item is 2021-36. The Chairman's charity donations. The Parish Council received 2 donations to the Chairman's charity, one of £200 and one of £50, for the upkeep of dedicated benches. Consider what we do with this money. The RFO suggests establishing an earmarked reserve. Has the current, or the outgoing chair, did this money come in this year, or did it come in the outgoing chairs?
The £200 came last year and the £50 came this year.
Did the chairman have so did those chairmen, respective chairmen, did they have a charity for their year?
I mean, as well as we've just agreed, the chairman's paid a grant to the Full Life Church Food Bank and one to Square Peg. I don't think that was the issue really. It was basically what had happened was we got this money in, and at the moment it just kind of sat in general reserves because it's not kind of separated off in any special way. It can just sit in general reserves, but that seems a bit unfair. But it's what we do, where we put it, and B, what it's for, because it's obviously something we've not had before.
Councillor Dixon.
Can it not be used to pay for the repairs and whatever of these seats? It's for the upkeep of seats and benches. Can it not be used to pay the contractor for the upkeep on some of the other seats?
It could, yeah.
It's all for the same purpose and the same good.
Okay, so from my, when this was discussed and this was put forward by the service provision,
Yeah.
it was discussed that if someone's actually paying for a bench, then they would, we didn't want them to feel the entitlement that they would demand that their bench is preferentially kept better nick than all the other of the parish council's benches.
Yeah.
So the fee was there to put your plaque on, and they would take the money, and then it would be given to we agreed at that service provision committee that we would, that would then go towards the chairman's charity. So I foresee it, that it would go with whatever the chairman's charity was of that year.
All I'm saying, Michael, is that in the past, people have had seats dedicated to different people and put in different parts of the valley. And they've paid for the seat, and then the council took over the running and maintenance of them. And I would like to think that these people that are making these grants were helping to support the people who have given money in the past, who are now dead, who have dedicated seats to people, so that its money can be used to help towards the maintenance costs. It means that it's another cost on the council. If we could save something on this by supporting all seats, not just the ones from these particular people.
Have any other contributions? Councillor Hogley.
I think I'm with Councillor Dixon on this, to be honest. I think people have made a contribution towards the ongoing maintenance of the seats as part of all the seats, and therefore it is a cost that's sits with that. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, giving it to the chairman's charity, it will end up being given as a charitable donation to another organisation, which isn't a bad thing in its own right, but people haven't given it thinking it will be given to another charity, if you see what I mean. They've given it in order to support the ongoing maintenance of the benches. So personally, I think it should go into the maintenance, you know, an income, if you like, into the maintenance costs.
Okay.
With Richard's help, could it be put into a fund and then transferred at the end of the year to go towards the cost of the other repairs on the seats? So it's same as if we've got a contribution of £250 now. At the end of the financial year, it be transferred into the maintenance of seats budget and would reduce the amount that they've been paid out on that.
Have we any other contributions?
Is there any reason Richard couldn't do that?
No.
No, but
Okay, Councillor Davis.
yeah, very much in agreement with what Councillor Hogley and Councillor Dixon said, that we should use the money for the benches. So I think it's just give Rich the authority to do that and put it where he believes is the best place to put it in order that it gets used for the benches. I think we just delegate it to the deputy clerk to sort it out.
Okay, so we currently have a bench policy that says that anyone who wants a plaque on a bench can do, provided there's no plaques on it beforehand and they make a donation to the chairman's charity. So we'll have to amend that policy to say that it will go into it won't go to the chairman's charity, or we recommend to the service provision committee that they amend their policy to not say the chairman's charity. It now goes into the pot for everyone's. So we're kind of undermining a decision that was made at a different committee. Does that make any sense? That committee, that committee put forward a policy that they would allow plaques to be put on benches with a donation to the chairman's charity, and now we're on somewhere else. Councillor Colling.
As I understood it, though, you set that rule because you were concerned that people having a sense of being able to dictate what would happen to their bench. But if it goes into the general bench fund, you overcome that problem, but it is going vaguely the way the people who made the donation wanted it to go.
I suppose what I was concerned about was, obviously we have £1,000 each year in the chairman's charity, which the chairman uses for expenses and then pays out charity at the end of the year. Now, if we have this £250, is that money that's deducted from the 1,000? So there's only 750 in, and plus this 250 that's come in separately. Is that how we're going to do the maths?
No.
Or is it £250 on top of the £1,000?
No. What I'd like to see is that the chairman still has his £1,000 to do with what he wants.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Yeah, that goes without saying.
If the chairman wants to spend his £1,000 on what he wants, or use it for what purpose he wants it used for, that is his problem. That is his choice or her choice.
That's not the issue.
Everybody does what they want. This is money which is being paid to the council for the placing of either on the providing of seats or the placing of plaques in memory of somebody. If that had been the case, I've said that I'd like to see the money that's given to that goes towards the maintenance of all seats. Because one seat isn't any better than the other, but yet these people are giving money out of their own pockets towards this. And I don't think it should then be given to the chairman. If you're suggesting we reduce the chairman's allowance every year by the amount that's coming in seat money, I don't think that works. I think it wants to be left. And then just that account that the seats are in is reduced by so much at the end of the year by transferring this amount out of one pot into another.
Okay. I'm aware that the chairman has an allowance. Yeah. I'm also aware that the chairman, as he goes through the year of their civic duties, not his own, their civic duties, they may choose to have a charity for that year and raise money for that charity through various things that they may do, whether they have a dinner dance, whether they have various functions, and whether they may somehow have various. I know Councillor Brooke had quite a successful dance and raised quite a lot of money via auctioning off some items and that kind of thing. And then he donated the money to, I think it was to Help for Heroes on his year. Yeah, I think the Service Provision Committee, because previously we did not charge for putting money on plaques. We just didn't. We tried to discourage it, which was the system under the previous clerk. We now would let people put money on plaques, but rather than taking the money for benches and plaques, we would give it towards that charity of the chairman's charity, that whatever that chairman raised over their year. And this is what I envisaged. This is what I believe that the Service Provision Committee intended for this money to go towards through that policy. And to say that it's going towards the chairman's charity and then we're using it for other things that the parish council does, I think we need to change that. We have to go back to that Service Provision Committee and ask them to change their guidance on benches, which has recently been approved by the full council.
Councillor Greaves has got his hand up.
Councillor Greaves.
Yeah, I don't think we should even be having this discussion. It was a decision made by another committee that's been confirmed by the parish council as a whole. We just need to follow the direction that's been given to us. But you're right, Michael. If there's a concern over it, then the correct thing to do would be to refer it back.
I suppose what I was just trying to clarify was, if we've got this £250, is there now £1,250 in the chairman's charity?
Yeah, Rich.
No.
That's not for us to answer. You'll need to go back to full council to ask what they meant when they supported service provisions proposal.
The £1,000 that the chairman gets are for his civic duties. Am I right? That's not necessarily for a charitable donation. That's for his civic duties.
And the charity.
Some of those civic duties may involve making a charity.
Yeah.
£1,000.
Fair point.
But whether the recent chairs have, but a future chair may choose to adopt a charity for his year, for their year. Sorry, I'm using for their year in office that they want to raise money towards, as Councillor Jason Brooke did when he was in post, and he raised quite a significant amount of money for Help for Heroes. That was far and above on top of the £1,000 that he paid for attending various civic duties. And it was considered that this, I believe when we were discussing that as a committee, that's what they were considering this for. It would go towards the chairman's chosen charity.
Okay.
I think everybody's getting away from the point. The chairman's allowance isn't for charity, it's to his own choosing. If he chooses not to spend during his year, the money that was put into a chairman's account in the past was the chairman that could not afford. And it was so nobody was excluded because they couldn't afford to go to functions and go to whatever. And that if we're fortunate now that we can afford to do it without, and then we can give that money away to charity, I think is great. I think at the end of my last year in office, I don't think I didn't pay anything now. There was something went wrong, and I think it'll all be in reserve still, some of my funds. But that didn't matter. These seats we want to preserve, and if these people are helping us, I think that is what's happening. And let it go back to full council to ratify and change what has been said, and so that it doesn't infer or complicate the chairman's charity. Because if somebody gives £200 towards a bench, looking after it, and doesn't like the chairman's particular choice, and makes a big stink about it, that doesn't bear well on us. And I don't want that pressure put in on Rachel or any future chairman.
Okay, so where do we sit?
And you might be the man. You might be the man in that seat. So I don't want you having pressure on you.
Could well be the pressure I can take. Do we go back to full council? Do we go back to service provision of what their intention was when that policy was put forward?
It don't matter. I don't care where you go, as long as we get the job tidied up and Richard knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Councillor Blacker.
I believe that the benches policy has been agreed by full council. Is that correct?
Okay. So we're going to refer this back to
in that case, we'll have to go back to full. We'd have to go back to full council. I mean, I'm in support of Councillor Dixon's suggestion that the money goes to the upkeep of benches. And I know this is unravelling what's already been done, but maybe we've thought about it a bit more. But we need to move progress. We need to progress, really.
Liz.
The memorial bench policy wasn't passed at council. It's going back to service provision, so it could be adjusted if that's what you want to do.
So it's been referred back to service provision. So we'll ask them to clarify that point on there at this point. So unfortunately, Richard, we can give you no answer about what to do with the cash. We're going back to service provision for there to discuss there.
Okay.
Very good.
Is everybody okay with that? Sorry, Councillor Sweeney, did you stick your hand up, thumb up, or were you okay with it? We're all right. Okay, moving on. Petty cash. Some more money that we don't know what to do with. Under its latest financial regulations, Prairie Council approved stopping its petty cash system. There is now £95.02 in the cash box. Consider what the council resolves to do with the remaining petty cash. So I'm just saying that we generally don't use petty cash anymore. We use other forms of payment for everything, and that's just left outstanding from when we did do petty cash. Is that right?
We only used it once last year for £4.98. So it's more trouble than it's worth, really.
Okay, Councillor Davis.
Well, if we've got £95 in the current climate, can't we just donate that to the Home Firth Food Bank so they can use it for purchase of food?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
I think that petty cash is always handy to have some cash about. I am rather embarrassed today to be cashless when I was going about my work, and needing petrol in the car was rather embarrassing. I had to get a lady to help me by paying with a card. I think
Councillor Dixon.
we want to get from being a non-cashless society. What happens if you need some stamps or anything like that? You just need to go and spend a few pounds, and there's always people with expenses and things like that, small amounts of money, and it can be handled. And I don't think it's wrong to have some petty cash, maybe £100, about the office.
Councillor Colling, and then
I just point out that it is the clerk and the deputy clerk who are suggesting we don't have it, and they're in a better position to judge whether they need it or not than we are.
Thank you, Councillor Colling. Councillor Hogley?
I'm fine with us getting rid of petty cash, that's fine, but surely petty cash is part of the administration budget, and therefore does it not need to, I mean, presumably to some degree, it was one of our assets that we carried forward from the previous year. So surely it needs to find its way back into that admin budget. I mean, Councillor Davies' proposal is a lovely proposal, but I think actually that's a separate question. That would be a grant to an organisation, which is different from this, which to my mind is administrative money, which, because it was held in cash form, is sort of has to be dealt with separately, but should sit in that admin budget.
Okay, so Councillor Hogley has proposed that it goes into the administration budget, which will show an increase of that budget, but hopefully then we can sort that out at the budget end and sort of reduce that budget or whatever accordingly to make it fit. That seems like a sensible option to me. Is anyone second that? Pat Colling, all those in, oh sorry, Liz, I think you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say that Councillor Dixon's point has already been dealt with, because in the financial regulations we've already decided to dispense with a petty cash.
Okay, that decision's already been made.
Who's financial registration regulations this?
So we have a proposer and we have a seconder.
What I didn't understand, Michael. So it was Liz said it's something. If we didn't have petty cash at our office, I'd never get no money.
Yeah, but this decision, what they're saying is that the decision's already been taken, Paul, on that matter. We just need to decide what's going to happen with the money. So
the proposition is it goes back
to where it was.
No, we don't have the power to do that, do we? Because that decision was made by another committee.
So it's made by full council. Full council passed the financial regs.
So Councillor Hogley proposed that it goes back into the administration budget, because generally items bought with petty cash would be administrative.
Yeah.
Things. So that's what Councillor Hogley proposed. Councillor Colling seconded that. All those in favour? Thank you.
Okay.
Carried. Okay, doke then. So now we're on to the Home Firth Year of Festivals. As I understood it, Mr. Dorrell put forward a case that those festivals on board would only be coming to us for half their what they would normally come to us for a grant, and then the overriding body of Year of Festivals would apply for the other half, and then to use that for basically a partnership of promotion for all the festivals between them, all the festivals that take place in Home Firth. So I don't see that it would actually be any further expenditure for the council if they stuck to those kind of rules, but they did want someone from the parish council to liaise with them regarding that. That's my understanding of it. Yeah. Anyone like to chat? So Pat Colling.
I got the impression when Councillor Hogley said it should also include the Festival of Food and Drink and therefore be all the festivals, that wouldn't be pursued with any enthusiasm.
Yeah, I got that.
Councillor Dixon.
We got the impression when we were doing grants in the past that these people came year after year after year, and it was said that we would put a stop to it. They could not expect every year to be given money. I think it's the tail wagging the dog here. They're trying to tell us what they're wanting to do, and they're telling us what they're going to do. And if they want to have the festivals, why don't they have them in Hongley, where the whole rest of the money is being spent lately? Let's have them in Hongley and then Home Firth free of all these quangos and clowns and road closing. Well, it doesn't suit me, any of this.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Davis.
It's producing things for people to waste money on, and they end up, we don't end up any better for it.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. In terms of our valley, particularly Home Firth, obviously, in terms of the town centre, the festivals are crucial. If we lose the festivals, we lose, a great attraction. We lose part of the character, and economically, it would have a very significant impact. So certainly, I would support this. As I said earlier on, it would be good if we could get the food and drink, but I guess there's a sort of there may be some sort of dividing lines which I'm not aware of, and we know sometimes there are sort of rivalries and various other things. But I think the concept is good, and I think it makes perfect sense for the parish council to be, if you like, very closely aligned. I don't see it as I would disagree with Councillor Dixon. I don't see it as a tail wagging the dog. I see this as us working in collaboration and partnership with key community and activities, and also importantly contributing to the economic recovery of the valley as well. They're crucial. I don't think you can underestimate the impact that they have within the town.
Anyone else would like to?
Do they benefit the people of Home Valley? There's 90% of the people that come to all these events won't be from the Home Valley. We're supposed to be here to look after the people of the Home Valley, not the comers in who come to the food and drink festival and go away with a load of money.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. You've contributed well on this item. Councillor Hogley.
Well, in response to Councillor Dixon, people come to the valley, the so-called comers in, and they spend their money in our shops, our businesses, our pubs, our restaurants, our B&Bs, etc. So they help support jobs for those who are living in the valley. So, and actually most of those communities, you'll find a huge number of local residents come along to them. I've been to lots of them. They're fantastic events, and we're very lucky that we have all these groups willing to organise them, because they're mainly staffed, well, they are pretty much staffed by volunteers. I mean, I think it's a really good proposal. I would suggest that, given the offer is that they all effectively put in individual grants, but offer within those, or grant applications, but offer within those to set aside half of the money that they're asking for into a promotions budget, that we push it back to them and say, right, well, in the next finance meeting, we will expect to see grant applications from the 3 festivals that you've mentioned. We would welcome if you were able to involve the other multi-day festival, which I think is the only other one that really runs over a whole weekend, which is the food and drink one, because we'd look favourably on more festivals working together, and then we can make a decision as to how to progress that if they all come forward and put their words where Stephen's suggestion was, because I think we need to we need to see what they're proposing, really, together.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeney.
So there's a couple of issues. One is that surely someone somewhere must have estimated the economic benefits to the region, to the Home Valley from these activities. That must be a matter of fact somewhere. Also, is it really sensible for us to even consider declining supporting anything which is going to provide a fiscal stimulus in the current climate? I realise Councillor Dixon is voting with his feet as far as one can tell, but it seems to me that this money is money wherever it comes from, right? So it would be useful, I think, going back to the data, it'd be useful if we could find, if there is any data anywhere for the level of economic impact that these things have in the Home Valley. There must be something somewhere. I would guess it's substantive.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, just I think if we look at this, I think it's an opportunity as well for the parish council to have an active role in these activities, rather than simply responding to giving grants. And I think this is about, as I said earlier on, this is about creating a partnership and collaboration with the festivals, and also, that means the parish council having some say in the direction of what we're doing in the valley. So I see this as a real opportunity to do that, and to link that with other things that we want to do within the valley in terms of reinvigorating the market, etc. And if we're doing this together, we can plan this in a much more effective way, and hopefully through critical mass, create an even better product, if you like, at the end of the day.
Okay, are any other contributions? Well, I don't think we have a particular motion here. I suppose we're going back to them to sort of respond to Mr. Dorrell, that sort of we were enthused by his, generally we were enthused by his, what he's proposing to do, and we look forward to seeing applications on that, going. Liz.
I think do you think you should vote on whether Councillor Hogley is a representative to the festivals?
I was coming to that.
Oh, sorry.
I was coming to that. Whether
Sorry, I thought you'd gone over that.
No. I don't know. Did Councillor Hogley say that she wanted to fulfil that role? Councillor Hogley.
Yeah, I'm happy to act as kind of liaison with them, and then subject to the grant. Then, well, I don't know whether the contact really should come, I guess, via the clerk to say that I'll be their point of contact, and then I can encourage them to put together a combined grant application. And then if it's successful, which obviously is subject to the views of the committee at the time, then I'll work with them to try and support the best way of spending any of that money on publicity element.
Yep, I'm quite happy to support that that proposal. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Right, crack on. We're nearly there. Grants. Referral from the Grants Working Party. Review of the grant giving process. To approve the adoption of the grant application form for all grants. Clerk to report.
Well, you've actually seen some of the new application forms tonight, because I have been sending them out, because they're not very different to the ones we had before, and they've got some interesting additions that we rather like. And what I've added on to Councillor Blacker's suggestion was the last page, which is really for admin, just so that we can keep track of when we've replied to people, when the grant came in, what legislation we've used, that sort of thing. So that last page, called the checklist, is we've added on. But I mean, I don't know what people's views are about the new form. I think it's a bit more attractive, a bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more readable. It's a bit more user friendly for me.
Yeah.
Councillor Sweeney.
So going back to my previous comments about with regards to the cricket club application, some of the nomenclature might be tightened up, I think. So under section 5, which is conditions, 5.1, all grants are conditional upon submission of audits to the council for the previous year, the bank statements for the previous 6 months.
Councillor Sweeney, I think you're ahead of yourself. You're on L on the guidelines. Where
I do apologise. We'll
come back to
stall my question. Sorry.
Councillor Grieve.
Yeah, I actually thought that Councillor Sweeney was going to flag up the finances section on the criteria, where it refers to financial year and then the income, expenditure and reserves for that financial year. I thought it was going to say the bit about surely we need the current, rather than whatever was at the end of the previous. So we might just want to have a think about, do you ask for both, or is current, do we ask for current, but then copies of the latest? One for Liz to think about, maybe.
So to just come back on that, if I could, Mary, before you come in, I think what we might ask for is a snapshot of the current financial situation, a brief statement that summarises the current financial situation, along with any documentary evidence that supports that.
Councillor Blacker. You're muted, Councillor Blacker. You're muted.
I was still on the previous item, which is the grant application form. I didn't think we'd moved. I didn't realise we'd moved on. Anyway,
no, we haven't moved on. We're on the application form.
Right? And it was just to try and sneak back in something I had tried to put in originally, but got lost in the deliberations of the grant working party. And it was to put in the suggestion that perhaps we could put in a question on how does the group addressing the climate emergency, reducing its carbon footprint. I think that would be, given the commitment of the council to addressing the climate emergency, I think it would be quite useful just to stick I hesitate to add to the length of it, but I just feel we ought to be, prioritising grants to groups that have taken that into account.
Councillor Collins.
This is something we unofficially so far adopted on CASC, where we had a pre-meeting, not of the whole committee recently, to look at declarations of interest and whatnot. The new application for interest, and said that we will be, when we're stuck to choose between things, we'll use greenness as an important differentiator, and it probably should be written into the form, into the application form, saying if this is good for the environment, it will be looked on more favourably than if you make no case at all.
Councillor Hogler.
One thing that I was just conscious of is it says at the top of the form there'll be 2 dates in the council year in which grants considered, yes. which is fine, that's all agreed. But then I'm conscious that the previous item where we were just talking about the festivals putting in an application, I made reference to them coming in November. Yeah. Now, clearly, if they look at the form, they're going to not come till February. So I wonder if we ought to just either say, well, actually, given that the principle was discussed at this last meeting, we allow them to come in November, or whether we wish to ask them to wait until February. I know this is slightly referring back to the previous item, but I think it's important that given this form is now going out, we need to give consistent advice to anyone.
Yes, I kind of agree. I think we do need to give consistent advice.
Liz wants to speak. Michael.
Yeah, just to say that really that's for next year. I'm being a bit, I put that in there so that you can agree it, but we did say we weren't going to have the 2 separate dates until the next council year. I know I've put it on the form. I haven't put it on the forms I've sent out. I've just put it on the one you're looking at.
Okay, that's fine.
That clarifies that point. Thank you very much.
Michael, I think
Councillor Dixon.
I think the comment that Pat made about saying to people that if they're going to adhere to our wishes for climate change, they're going to get better concessions. Are we allowed to do that?
I think
we can't do this and we can't do that, we can't do the other. I think that is something that is prejudicing certain groups that have no ability to do anything towards climate change. And certain bodies, and it's not through their own faults, can't do anything. They haven't got room to put a windmill up in the backyard to create the electricity or something like that. If they did that, they're going to get extra money. And I don't think that's fair.
Thank you. Councillor Colling?
It was not the intention that everybody has to save the planet. It was the intention that when there are competing bids for a limited budget, the preference is likely to go to, and it's a statement of intent.
That's not fair.
It's not a set of rules.
Somebody that is not doing anything of any harm should be treated as the same as somebody that is doing something to do the good that you expect. And I don't think it's fair that we should judge people on their records of what they do. What they're providing in a service is more important. And the service to the community is more than the service to the planet.
Councillor Blacker.
This could be something very simple, couldn't it? I mean, obviously not all groups are going to be erecting wind turbines, but it could be just something as simple as a commitment to use recycled paper or recycled ink cartridges. It could be, it could be that. It's just really to get them to think, if they haven't already thought about how they might be contributing to addressing the climate emergency. So every group should be able to do that. I don't think it's a huge imposition.
So far regarding, I mean, it's a bit difficult because the item is to approve the adoption of the new grant application form, which I think is really, really good. But we've just talking about it, we've come up with some amendments that we want to put to it, which I find it really difficult. If we keep amending and sending him back and keep amending and sending back, we're never going to get an adopted actually grant application form. So I'm going to be quite simple here, and so I like to go by the book. The first motion is that we adopt this application form, and I'll propose that we adopt it. As have we got a seconder for that? So Councillor Dixon, you second that. Have we any amendments? So does anyone want to make an amendment to it that we... Councillor Blacker.
I'd like to propose an amendment that we include a question on addressing the climate emergency.
Have we got a seconder of that proposal? Councillor Pat Colling. Okay. So, yeah, have we any other amendments we want to make to that form if we're going to adopt it. Someone mentioned the finances, I know. Councillor Sweeney.
Yeah, so following on what we've said before and what Councillor Greaves just also alluded to, I think if we could have something which asks for a financial snapshot of the current financial situation.
Can you be more specific in your wording? We wanted to get this done and we don't want to refer it back to a talking shop somewhere.
So we want a clear statement from the grant applicants of the current financial situation within the organisation.
So we would want something along like their finances, so their income of the last. Right. Okay.
Just amend the words to current reserves. I think that might do the trick. Current
reserves.
Yeah.
Councillor Hogley.
I was just going to say you could just put current reserves, but leave an extra box in there that says comments if explanation required. Because then people have the opportunity to explain why they've got £100,000 in reserves, but actually there isn't any.
Yeah.
Because they're committed to a building.
I'm hoping one of the clerks is getting this down.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a moving feast here. So, okay, we have 2 amendments. So I'll take the first amendment. Do we have a seconder for that amendment that they're going to go? So the amendment was the reserves will be current reserves with a box for explaining of the reserves. Yeah, do we have a proposer for that? Do we have a seconder for that? So voting on the second amendment regarding the finances, all those in favour? That amendment's been carried. So the first amendment was that we would include a statement regarding their intentions regarding the climate emergency. Do we have so that's been all. So I think we had a proposal. We definitely had a proposer and a seconder for that. So all those in favour? Okay, doke. That motion's been and then for the going back to the original amendment then. So the original motion. Sorry, the motion including the amendments. All those in favour? Great stuff. I believe that's now been adopted. Thank you, everybody. Okay, then. So then we're going to the guidelines. To approve the adoption of the new criteria of the guidelines. This is document L. Has everybody had a look at that? Councillor Davis.
In light of the amendment with climate emergency, I think you just need to put something in there to help people with that. So some description of what we mean. Something along the lines of what Mary's, talked about. So I'm not got the words tonight, but I do think we need to put something in there to help people.
You've already got it in there.
So if I could refer to item 1.8, item 1.8, which says the parish council will give preferential treatment to grants requests where there is a commitment to the stated goals of climate emergency, i.e. sustainability, reducing carbon use, recycling materials, reducing energy costs, and incorporating insulation for buildings, etc. Councillor Davis.
I would include some of the more simple issues that Mary suggested as well. But I think because for some people, it's not always the case that they know exactly what that means. So just some examples. That's all. Like you said, Mary, it could well be. Recycled paper, whatever. But I think you need to have 1 or 2 examples that we need to put in there.
Okay, I did suggest some alternative wording to the clerk. If you'd like me to read that through and see if
go on.
Go on. So for item 1.8, I propose that it should read: Home Valley Parish Council has declared a climate change emergency, and has made a commitment to reducing carbon use and promoting a sustainable environment. Therefore, preference will be given to applications committed to these goals, such as, but not limited to, recycling materials, reducing energy use and costs, the incorporation of improved insulation for buildings, and the promotion of a sustainable environment and carbon reduction.
I'm fine with that. That sounds good to me.
Perhaps you could send me that version again, Councillor Bogson.
Something, Michael, where we can say that we don't want any aeroplanes flying over the Home Valley then? because the day gone by when the man from Kirklees came up to Holmfirth and said that the emissions rate is very good, and when asked where the emissions had been tested, he was told that it was at the technical college, which was done at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the foundry next door was billowing smoke out, and that they said that everybody laughed because he didn't know where it had been done, and that had been the case, and that was a councillor called Shears some long number of years ago, who was laughed out of the Civic Hall. So if we're going to put pressure on everybody to do everything that's nice and one thing and another, I think we may as well not exist.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Blacker?
Yes, I want to just suggest a small amendment to item 4.2. It's just the assumption at 4.2 is that it's only going to be children involved, and obviously educational trips don't necessarily just involve children. So I suggest maybe just an amendment to the wording there, which could simply be of direct benefit to participants.
So just to clarify, the current 4.2 says an application must not grant use, an applicant must not use the grant for trips outside the home valley unless the trip is of an educational nature or direct benefit to the children can be demonstrated.
So I'm just suggesting that the last phrase is replaced by is of an educational nature or of direct benefit to participants.
Okie doke. So you want to take out children, so
take out children, yep.
And make it participants.
Yes. Because adults can be educated too.
I'm sure they can.
I'm sure they can, Mary.
Okie doke. So that's 1.8. And then we've got 4.2. Have you got the suggestion that Mary put forward? Yeah. Have we any other amendments to it that anyone's seen would like to put forward? Councillor Sweeney.
I've actually got myself in the right place now. So under section 5, it's just a little vague where it says the bank statements for the previous 6 months, following on from the sentence before. It's not clear whether the bank statements for the 6 months previous to the previous year are intended. So I think that needs to be tightened up in terms of presumably the 6 months preceding the application would be a better way to write it.
Or maybe say last 6 months.
Yes, and it's something which makes it clear that we're talking about the recent time frame.
Have we got that?
Yeah.
And have we any other amendments? Are we all clear of the amendments that's been proposed? Do we need any of them? Go through them again? Everything's quite good.
Can we move them as a single?
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, I'll propose that.
So Councillor Greaves proposed that we take those amendments as put forward by the other councillors as one and then adopt. Councillor Davis has agreed to second that.
Yep.
All those in favour? So that the guidelines have now been adopted by the parish council. Yep. With the amendments. Thank you. Okay. Item 3, to approve the adoption of decision to take grant applications on 2 dates across the financial year 2021 to 2022 onwards. So that would start in April. Is that April the 1st, 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah. Councillor Greaves.
Yeah, I'm not clear on what the benefit is just having 2 periods in a year. It will make it very difficult for some groups to access funding, depending upon what they want it to do and when and how long they may need to wait. So what's the rationale behind just twice a year?
Okay, just to answer that, the rationale was that currently we do them on piecemeal and as they come and as they fall. And there's no sort of a merit or benchmarking of one application against another application. And it was felt like parish council, if we got them in one go, we could see how much money we've got and what would be the benefit and which one applicants, you know, we could see the merit against each other, and also the parish council could do it all in one and we wouldn't also have this thing waiting at the end of the year and saying, well, how much money have we got left? Yes, we can give it to them. Whereas early in the year, we might have said, no, we're not, because we don't want to give all this money out too soon. So we'd have a better outlook of the year about who we were giving what and where to, and the merits for that. Councillor Colin.
The other benefit was that alongside that was the introduction of people doing less formal declarations of interest, so that they say, we think we'll need some money next autumn, or we think we'll need, you know, this much, so that you can actually also assess what's coming up.
Councillor Dixon.
I think in some years gone by, and I don't know whether it still applies, but Kirk Burton Parish Council used to advertise the fact of grants once a year, and they used to give their grants out just once in the year. It wasn't that they had so much money and they just dealt with it at once and dealt with it. This 2-tier system, I think, is a lot better, because a full night can be dictated to grants only, and we aren't having to interfere with our meetings, and it prolongs a meeting like it has done tonight because of the grant system. And if we can have two nights in the year where we discuss the grants and the grants only by either the full council or individual bodies, we then save ourselves a lot of time. And I think to do it at 2 halves isn't bad, because at the minute we're on 6-week cycles, so it's not going to be much different.
Councillor Huggley.
Yeah, I think the idea is that I think it's particularly relevant for CASC budgets and service provision budgets, particularly because the sums of money involved for CASC, and that's why the expressions of interest system is sort of being tried out this year. So we have a sense of what kind of things might come up next year. And I think twice a year is sufficient and provides the focus that Councillor Dixon was saying. But I would just say there's no proposal to bring all grants for all committees to a full council. It's still the budgets sit within those individual committees. So those committees would have 2 of their meetings each year, which would look at the grant applications.
Okay, and this was the proposal put forward by the grants working group, which was agreed for council, wasn't it? So it has been agreed, we just haven't got formally adopted it. Yeah. So has anybody got any other contributions to make? Okay, so we'll formally go to all those in favour that we approve the adoption. Okay, all those against? Thank you. Okay, then. So motion number 2021-40, internal monitoring of the council's financial. I'm just to make us aware we have gone over time. Are we okay to? Is everybody okay to carry on and try and get the business finished? Okay, I'll plough on. Okay, 2021-40, internal monitoring of the council's financial systems. The committee considering using an internal control checklist to monitor the financial management practice in the system suggested. Attached. Has anybody seen it? Yeah. What are the considerations? What do people think? I personally quite like it. Councillor Huggley.
It looks good to me, but just for clarity, is the intention that the checklist is used by the clerk/deputy clerk, or used by a councillor reviewing the finances? I mean, it looks good anyway. But
it's meant to be for it's meant to be for a councillor. Basically, in terms of the internal audit that we've done, it's something we fail on every year. That we're meant to have internal checks by councillors every quarter at least, where they basically just go through all the payment sheets, as you see, all this kind of stuff, make sure that we've got contracts and so on and so forth. It'd probably take a couple of hours every quarter. I don't think it's a lot easier than last year, where Councillor Feeney was doing the bank reconciliations. We don't have to do that anymore because of the new accountancy package. But, for the sake of the internal audit, it would be very helpful if we had somebody who just took on this role. It can't be the chairman of the committee.
That's the second part of it, though, isn't it? But the first bit is the paper document. But thank
Yeah,
you.
that's, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I?
Fine, it's fine, Richard. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good going forward. I understand where we're coming from, that you would go in, whoever's going to do this is going to use this form to benchmark, I suppose, do the internal audit in accordance with this. Are we okay? Just, it's to consider. Do it. What? Any thoughts, inputs? So shall I move to adopt it? All those in favour? Yep, great stuff. Okay, and then now we need to get to someone. The committee to consider appointing someone to monitor the Systems Council using an internal. This cannot be the chairman. Is this the chairman of the council or the chairman of this committee?
Chairman of the committee, and I think probably the chairman of the council, but the chairman of the committee definitely.
Any other takers? So going to the council officers once every 3 months, go through this checklist and tick off all the stuff that's on there that's relevant to it. Is anyone willing? Pat Colling is willing to go and do that. Thank you, Pat. Would anybody else like to have a crack at it?
I think we only need one person, really.
Well, I'm just saying, if more than one person wants to do it, we might have a vote off. So Pat's going forward for it. I will propose Pat. Will someone second Pat? Councillor Hogley. All those in favour of Pat Colling? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Equipment replacement. Consider clerk has requested to have her laptop replaced. It's an old laptop with letters worn off the keys. It's extremely slow despite regular clean-ups with the text. Having visited my dad over the last 3-4 weeks to try and get his computer going fast, and then we went back to find out when he bought it, and it's 7 years old, and I think it runs on clockwork. So yeah, I can see where we're coming from here. Yeah. Do we actually have a date how old this is?
Thank you, Rich.
The older they are, the better they are.
Just go back to that, Michael. Some of those letters are being mistyped up. I'm joking, by the way. I'm joking.
That's why I keep misspelling everything. Thank you, Councillor.
Okay. So to consider, I think we need to do
for the sake of it.
Yeah,
No, there's another 5 years in that, isn't there, Paul?
That's why we have problems with our computer today, because my wife says it's getting old. I said, how old is it? And it's only about 7 or 8 years old, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. So
it's false economy. We can't afford these new luxuries.
Right. It just has to consider.
So we'd like basically sort of a budget of about £500 to replace the laptop.
Okay. So there's 2 ways. As I see it, there's 2 ways we can go with this. We can approve a budget of £500 and let the clerks go and sort that out, or we can say we've considered it. Come back to us with what you're going to buy with your money. Which way around do we want to do it?
We can do either.
Well, that's what I'm saying to the councillors. We can do either. What do you want to do, councillors? Councillor Hogley.
I'd like to get it all done in one go tonight.
Councillor Hogley, we'll ignore Pat Colling butting in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's silly asking to wait until the next meeting to approve it. I think this is an essential piece of equipment that the clerk needs to do her job properly. So I think if £500 is sufficient, then that's what we should go for. But I suppose we look to the clerk to tell us that. If £500 seems sufficient, then let's go with that.
No, we have got a model at 499. We have already identified one on the recommendation of our computer whiz person, Craig from what are they called, Liz? Home
computers or something like that.
I propose we authorise that then, please.
Yeah.
Somebody doing a good salesman's job here.
He's not selling it.
They're getting more commission out of selling that computer than anything else.
He's not giving. He's not selling it.
Will the machine do its job? Because if it's doing its job, I don't see the point in changing.
I'm with Councillor Dixon. I think we should, if they're going to have a new one, they should have one of those wind-up ones.
Okay, come on, let's get less of the frivolity. This is a public meeting, and people will be looking at this. Councillor Davis.
Let's move on and let's authorise this. We shouldn't even be discussing it. This is
no. I think we should. I just need to ask the Richard, where are you sourcing it from? What is the supplier?
Craig, the chap who services our computer, Liz basically asked him for four models that he thought would do the job, and I've just looked them up on Curry's basically, but I can look to see where we can get them the cheapest.
Laptops Direct. It is a Huddersfield-based firm.
I'm not bothered about Huddersfield-based. We should have a Home Firth-based firm supplying it.
Oh, gosh, I'll ask the boss where he lives.
Honley or Brocco?
Yes, all right. You haven't got one in Honley and Brockholes, have you?
So just to clarify, the person who we deal with for IT problems and keeping stuff up to date, we asked them.
Yeah.
He gave us a list of models that you might want to purchase, and you've been out and sourced this from somebody else, not from the person who's recommended the models. You've sourced this from somebody else. That seems perfectly above board to me, and I'm quite happy to put forward the motion on that basis that these 500 quid budget for buying a new laptop for the clerk.
Okay.
Would anyone second that? Councillor Hogley, all those in favour? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anyone against? Anyone abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. So that's that. Representation to receive report, if any, of representatives to outside bodies. Has anyone been anywhere? No. And were there more than 6 of you there?
Can I very quickly
outside?
Can I very quickly raise something? When we in the annual council meeting, we just kept them all the same, all the reps, but we should have changed the 2 representatives to YLCA because it should be the past chairman and the current chairman. So we need to replace Di Hall with Rachel Hogley.
Okay.
Please. Can we do that? Because it is part of F&M's responsibility.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favour?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So sorry I've overrun, I do apologise, but we have got through everything, and thank you all for your attendance, thank you all for your contributions, and thank you especially to Richard and Liz for turning up, both of you tonight, and thank you very much for your support.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.